Hey guys, thought we'd do something a little different today. We really haven't seen the pigs or visited with the pigs in quite some time. And I don't know, this morning I just felt like it was time to have a little breakfast video with our piggies and their waggy tails. They're a little bit happy. Their tails are almost in sync. These are miniature. I lie. These are not. Let me rephrase. I should probably restart this whole video because that was so inaccurate, but we're just going to roll with it because this is unscripted and unplanned and we just go with it. So these are potbelly pigs. The pink and black one here, Mr. Myles, he is actually a potbelly Juliana mix. Olive is a full potbelly. She is the black one that is exhibiting her potbelly. These guys are on the very small side for what you would expect for a potbelly or a Juliana for that matter. And they are both, I'm going to call them semi-rescues. Olive was more of a purchase, to be fair, although she was in pretty rough conditions, whereas Myles was a true rescue. He came through the pig placement network and definitely needed our help. So I told their stories last year. So the abbreviated version here is Olive was a piglet on a farm that was really just, breeding them for quick sale. They weren't really treated as pets or beloved animals. They were just a commodity, and we stumbled across it actually on a road trip, weirdly enough. Had no intention of getting a pig, and yet then we were coming home with a piglet. We've had some adventures with her. She lived in the house for her first 5 years. She housebroke herself. We have so many memories of her. I mean, she became one of the dogs. She would lay on the dog beds with the dogs. Just everything about her was fabulous, except pigs, again, really need the companionship of other pigs. And when she was about 2, I guess. Yeah, that's about right. We got a notification from the pig placement network that there was a pig in danger of being euthanized. And he was in danger of being euthanized because, unfortunately, his owner, through no fault of that person's, no fault of their own, needed to relocate and could not take the pig with them. And unfortunately, they were so attached to the pig and didn't feel that anybody else could give the pig the care that they needed, that they went to their vet and said, I'd rather him be euthanized as opposed to being passed around in a way that I wouldn't care for him. It may not be a choice you'd make, but I do understand the sentiment behind the choice. Thankfully, the vet stepped in and said, we can make this work. We can find him a fabulous home. He's thirsty now. And we can absolutely, do something for him, right? So the Pig Placement Network put out more of a restricted message, I'm going to say, not one of these broadcast messages, just to their known network. And at the time, we were not necessarily in the market for another pig, but he's exactly the same age as Olive. And it really was sort of the right time for her to have a companion. So Myles joined our family, and he had some issues. He had severe malnutrition. He had some, bone issues as a result of the malnutrition. He had some, deformities in his legs. He had never been on grass. He had never seen the outside. He lived in an apartment for his whole life, and not necessarily the best thing for a pig. So even though he was going to come with us and be a house pig, our house pigs went outside with the dogs on a regular basis. They spent time outside, in fact, more time outside than with the dogs. Because they could. So he learned how to be a pig. He learned what the outdoors was. He learned that if he could eat all the grass in the world, he could get big and strong again. And we really actually were able to correct most of his conformational problems. Not all, but most. And he's lived a much longer life than originally expected. So we're thrilled about that. These guys are both 14 now. That is not young by any means, but pigs do have a long lifespan. They can live to be 20 plus or more. 20 is kind of the outlier, though. More than that is really rare, but not impossible. So, we're certainly hoping for many more years with these guys. But at about 5 years of age, we did permanently move them out of the house and into the barn. 2 reasons. One is we moved to this farm and put the barn in so that we had a barn to give them. In the previous place, we did not have a barn. We had various, outbuildings and sheds and things, but nothing that I felt was appropriate for these guys. And 2, they had really started not to be destructive at all. Thankfully, they were never destructive in the house. But they started to really demonstrate that they wanted to be outside more than inside. Bringing them in from the yard had started to become a bit of a rodeo. They didn't mind sleeping inside, but that's about all they wanted to do, right? They really wanted to be outside all day. And while we could accommodate that, it wasn't the perfect situation because they had no shelter. They didn't really have the right amount of shade. So we couldn't leave them out all day, especially when we were going to the offices. So when we got to this farm, we built a barn and we knew that we needed a stall to accommodate them. And that's what they got. So that is their brief background for those that are new. And if you heard it last year, well, I went into a lot more detail last year, but there's your summary again as a reminder. If you've been around for the winter, you know that these guys bedded down in a huge mountain of bedding here in this corner here. That was piled up probably another 1.5 feet, so much so that they could bury into it if they needed to for insulation, for warmth. Now that we've changed over to spring weather, the nights aren't as cold, they've actually done the work themselves to sort of redistribute their bedding, shift it out of the way, and made it much less of a mountain and much more of a mattress. The other thing you may notice is pigs are remarkably clean. Their stall is immaculate. They go outside to do their business unless it's absolutely miserable out. So during the winter, they will use this corner here to do their business if they can't get outside in the snow and the ice. But otherwise, they don't want it in their stall. So pigs are really easy to maintain in that sense. They do tear up their pasture a little bit because they can rip the grasses out by the roots. They do some digging. They want all that fun stuff. But thankfully, these guys, well, I shouldn't say these guys. They do exactly that in the pasture, but we found a balance where we've kind of let the pasture go, and I've talked about this recently, very natural. You can see I have to muck yet this morning. Don't yell at me. It's less grass, more weed. That's not a problem. They eat plenty of weeds. They don't mind that at all. And it keeps the pasture here coming up green year after year. While it's not lawn, it's pasture, and it works just fine for them. So that's our quick introduction, or my quick introduction to our piggies. They're about finished with their breakfast. You can see, they take their time. They're not pigs about their breakfast. They do share bowls. They do swap in and out of their bowls. And they do stop to drink in between. And that's about the only time that they'll take in water. Even on the hottest days, I'll come down here and I will refresh that water bowl 2 or 3 times. And they will not drink from it after their breakfast is done. And they have different methods of drinking. Olive sort of does the lift herself up and into the bucket. Myles does more of a stuff his head down in the bucket. but it works for them. And there you go. We haven't talked about our piggies in a while, and I thought it was time. So until next time, guys, I clearly have work to do. Bye for now.